Evening, Jen.
Evening, Hole. You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. You alright?
Not bad, not bad.
How's it going? Up to much today?
Not really. I'm tired though.
You're tired?
So it feels like I've done something.
That's a shock to everyone who knows you, that is. You're tired. And you only get about 12 hours sleep a night, don't you?
It's a real struggle.
The struggle is real, isn't it? Spoken from my perspective with like my 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
I need the alcohol to keep me awake.
You enjoy.
Right, indeed. Okay, so what are we on? Podcast number 5.
Yeah.
Wow, isn't time flying? We're still stuck in lockdown, sort of. Easing lockdown.
Yeah.
The sun's breaking through the clouds. It's been bloody miserable, hasn't it?
Typical British summer.
Yeah, North London weather at its best. Okay,
Dreary.
anyway, enough drivel or dribble. Right. Okay, so what we've got? 3 Billboards deep dive.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that indeed. The usuals. I think what I kick off with two of me questions.
Yeah, you do.
Right, so a reminder: six trivia / quiz questions coming up throughout the podcast, and I'll give you the answers at the end. And Jenny, you usually do quite well on these, but these are particularly hard this week.
Are
so
they? Okay.
We can test you out as well. So question number 1. Which film features the character Sir Robin, the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot? That's question 1. I'll try and read that again without making a mistake. Which film features the character Sir Robin, the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot? That's question 1. You can think about that.
Yeah, I will.
Question 2. Who played the role of the deranged Norman Bates in the classic Hitchcock horror Psycho? So, this is one of your favourite films, so you should know this. Who played the role of the deranged Norman Bates in the classic Hitchcock horror Psycho? And you can't see her face, but she's suffering now because she's...
I can't remember his name. It's now going to bug me.
It is going to bug you. Well, you'll have to wait until the end of the podcast to find out for sure.
Oh.
Put your phone away. You're not looking it up. Right. Okay.
I don't even have it. Okay.
Okay, so there's your first 2 questions. The 4 more questions to come with all the answers at the end. Oh, Jen, what have you watched this week?
Be honest with you, I haven't watched very much.
Why are we here? Go on.
Okay, well, we watched 3 Billboards, but we're going to talk about that later. And if people have listened to the podcast previously, they will know that I've been watching Life on Mars, which is on Netflix. I'm now on season 2. It's taken me a while. If you don't remember, BBC drama, a guy gets into an accident in 2006 and wakes up in 1973 and has to adjust to this new life where actually he does things like meets his parents and obviously can't tell them that he's their son all grown up. I'm still really enjoying that, and I would say if anyone hasn't watched it yet, go watch it. I'm out, so is there anything that you've been watching this week?
Similar story for me, really, just continuing with Schitt's Creek. Can I say that again? I've been continuing with Schitt's Creek.
But you like it, so it's not all...
Yeah, it's good.
crap.
Yeah, there's another 60 odd episodes to go, so that's good. And continuing with White Collar on Netflix, watching that with my kid, which is... fun, nice, and of course Premier League football returned this week, so I've started watching that again, but the less said about that the better after my team's result yesterday. Anyway, right, okay, question I think 3 and 4 coming up. We're racing to them? Yeah, it's on my list. Okay, so you're none out of 2 so far, Jenny, aren't you? So
I said I could guess number 1. Number 2, I should know, and I'm annoyed that I don't.
Right, well here goes question 3.
Okay.
This is an easy one.
You say that now.
I did. Which British comedian took over as host of The Late Late Show from Craig Ferguson? So that's a nice easy one. She's giving me a thumbs up there. She knows that one. I'll read it again. Which British comedian took over as host of The Late Late Show from Craig Ferguson? And question 4. Who was the star of Channel 4's Trigger Happy TV? Who was the star of Channel 4's Trigger Happy TV? Now, she's looking confused again, so I think we've got 1 from 4 there.
Yeah, I'm not doing well.
Okay, there are your two questions. Questions 3 and 4. Answers at the end. Right, this week's deep dive: 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri from 2017. Directed by
Martin McDonagh.
Cracking first name. And he's London-born Irish as well, isn't he?
He is indeed, yeah.
Fantastic, top man. I have no idea who he is, but...
well, you know that he directed In Bruges, which is another film that you really like.
When I found out that he directed In Bruges and this one, a lot of things made sense. There's quite a kind of dark comedic overlap between the two.
Very much so, yeah.
You're laughing at inappropriate times and...
yes.
You're not sure whether you should or not. Anyway, right, so why 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri?
Well... It is a dark comedy, and I think that we'd seen it before. We saw it in the cinema when it came out, and I hadn't seen it since, and it's still a great film. I think that the subject matter and a lot of the threads are still important in society, and I think they're important to explore.
Well, fill us in. What's it about?
Okay, so, different question. So, 3 Billboards is about a woman... called Mildred Hayes, and her teenage daughter was murdered. So at the time of the film, this is 7 months later, and she's frustrated that the police don't seem to be doing anything to try and catch the killer. So she
raped and murdered and body burned.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. It's gruesome. And she takes it upon herself to rent these 3 billboards which are left abandoned on a quiet road leading into the town of Ebbing in Missouri, and she puts the quite accusatory messages on them. So the 3 billboards actually read, the first one says raped while dying, the second one says and still no arrests, and the last one, how come Chief Willoughby, directed at the police department, and she hopes that it will trigger them into actually doing something more.
And it sets up a little kind of head-to-head between her and Chief Willoughby, played by...
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, and Mildred
Hayes is Frances McDormand, great actress. Know her from Fargo.
What else do you know her from?
Oh God, what else do I know her from?
No, so you don't, because I looked it up, and the only thing I've watched that she's been in is Fargo.
I was going to say, I didn't think I'd seen her in anything else.
So, there you go.
No. So, yeah, great actress from the 2 films I've seen.
Her in. Yeah.
Well, she's critically acclaimed. Anyway. So, yes, that's the story of the film.
Okay. Directed by Martin McDonagh. Okay, so...
Yeah.
You want to talk about him?
Only thing I want to say actually is something that we talked about when we watched the film. We didn't know if this was based on a true story. So he directed the film, but he also wrote it, and it's based on a true story of billboards that he saw while he was travelling in Southern America in the late 90s, about an unsolved crime, which was the murder of a woman in Texas, and that crime had happened in 1991. So he was there years later, and he saw these billboards, and that was his inspiration for the film. But he said it took him quite a long time to write the script for it and work out how he was going to, develop this subject matter, because it is quite tricky.
Yes, because Ebbing doesn't actually exist as a place.
No, Ebbing's not a town. The whole film was shot in a little town in South Carolina. So if you wanted to visit Ebbing, Missouri, apologies, you can't.
Okay, so you've already mentioned Frances McDormand, and there is, and Woody Harrelson. From Cheers. I know him from Cheers.
I thought you would, yeah. I know him from No Country for Old Men.
And he was in another Tarantino film as well.
Okay. I was going to say he was also in Seven Psychopaths, which is another Martin McDonagh film.
Right, I haven't watched that. Okay, who else is in it that we know?
Sam Rockwell is in it. So there are 3 main characters. Sam Rockwell plays a police officer called Jason Dixon. He is not your traditional police officer.
Or is he?
Well, okay. I mean, from the outset, he does nothing by the book. He's racist. He's homophobic. He's an alcoholic.
Abusive.
He's quite vile.
A bully.
But he does become, I feel like, a bit of a lovable rogue later in the film.
I can't buy into that at all.
I think it's supposed to feel like that, but anyway.
No, I don't. his redemption is one of the things I've got an issue with the film.
I think that's fair, but yeah, we will come to that.
Okay, so develop the story then. You've got the setup with the three billboards, the brutal rape and murder of Mildred's 18-year-old daughter. I don't know, 19.
I'm not sure actually how old she is supposed to be, but yes.
Talk us through the character of Mildred. What's she like? Quite abrasive.
Yeah, so she's quite a feisty character. She knows what she wants. She rarely cracks a smile, but she is a woman, struggling. She's lost her daughter. She lives now as a single mum with her other teenage son, who is also struggling to deal with the fact that he's lost his sister in such a horrible way.
And that his mother's turned a bit psychotic.
Yeah, she does some questionable things. The billboards are just the starting point, really, because once she puts the billboards up, or so actually rents them, and her messages go up, the town, rather than gathering around her and sort of rallying with her, the town tend to turn on her, because actually it's an open secret that Chief Willoughby is actually suffering from cancer, and he's got a wife and 2 young children, and the town seem to side with him a bit more. And he goes and sees Mildred after she puts the billboards up, but he says, we've tested like all the DNA of the men in the area who've been in prison, and we've done such and such. He goes through everything they've done, and he said, if he was just passing through, this rapist, we can't do anything. Yeah,
he's content with the job the police have done in the investigation, but he does also feel guilty that they've not arrested anybody or convicted anybody for the crimes.
So. It's small town where everyone knows everyone, and so he makes the personal visit to see her, and he does reassure her that he wants to do more if he can, and they're not forgetting about her daughter at all, but she's obviously she's not satisfied by that.
I've got an issue with something here.
Okay.
These 3 billboards in the film, it's revealed that they're on a road that nobody uses.
Yeah, a quiet road that leads into the town.
I'm curious, why would people care as much as they do in the film about those 3 billboards? Because that's the premise for the film. It's reliant upon this mass attention that these billboards garner. Garnish is something else.
Salad.
They get kind of state media or national media involved.
Yeah, they do.
Or local. I don't know what media it is involved, and it does become a bit of an issue. But I'm just curious as to why people cares about it in the first place.
I can see your point. I don't really know. But I think it's once the name Chief Willoughby was put up there, the town were like, right, you can't go and attack this man who is doing the best he can. He has a family, he's dying of cancer, or he's really ill. You can't attack him like that. And I get the impression that the way Frances McDormand plays Mildred, she's not the most likeable character because she is so abrasive.
Well, she's kind of earned the right to be that because her daughter's been murdered.
We don't even have, though, much of a real insight into her before her daughter died.
We know one thing, don't we?
Apart from the one scene we see, which is a flashback, which is right before her daughter leaves the house, presumably the last time she's seen her, and they're having an argument about the daughter wants to take the car, and they start having this argument, and it gets more what's the word I'm looking for? It escalates, and as the daughter storms out, without not being able to take the car, she screams back at her mother, well, I hope I get raped. And as she runs out, Mildred says, I hope you get raped too. And that's the last time she saw her daughter.
So you can see why she's fueled by guilt and anger to get some kind of closure on how her daughter met her end.
And she's also now a single parent because her ex-husband Charlie has now run off with a very young 19-year-old girlfriend who he seems quite content with now, and she's kind of been left to deal with everything on her own. And even her own son, he struggles with the fact that she's going around and making quite public displays of herself. And as the film progresses, we see things like she goes to the school to drop him off and someone throws a drink at the car. And and she goes over to a group of kids and asks who saw it and starts, like kicking them.
She kicks a boy and a girl, like they're probably 15,
in the
16,
crotch.
in the groin. Like,
yeah.
She doesn't
in
care.
In front of her son, and so he goes into school like, well, thanks, Mum. Like, she just can't help herself. She doesn't care about her public image anymore. The murder of her daughter has kind of removed any sense of consequence to actions. She just cares about one thing. Yeah, she's very determined.
Again, her character, I love Frances McDormand, and she plays the character brilliantly, but you do have to suspend belief, reality a little bit with her character. Molotov cocktails.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a bit of a stretch.
So basically later on, as she's getting nowhere, she escalates to the point where she creates her own Molotov cocktails. Where does that come from?
Well, that's in retaliation to her billboards being burned down. She believes by the police department, but it wasn't actually. But her response is to make... She seems quite adept at it. I mean, I don't know what kind of militia she's in privately.
I don't know. Yeah, that's not the most believable thing. Definitely not. She has this plan. She goes into the building opposite the police station and starts throwing these cocktails she's quite skillful, actually. Accurate, yes. And she rings into the police station beforehand to check that no one's there, and when no one answers the phone, she starts.
Yeah. So her character is... Yeah, you do have to question certain things about her character. However, brilliantly portrayed by Frances McDormand, but also her character, Mildred, the ex-husband you mentioned, he's an abuser. He's obviously
they have one big confrontation in front of her son,
who takes a knife to the dad to protect the mum as well.
He does. So she's obviously, this is not the first time in her life that she's struggled.
I've got another kind of issue with the film.
Okay.
In terms of its commentary on local people.
Okay, yeah.
How are the locals portrayed in this film? What does it say? What have you got? It's small town. We've got drink, alcohol. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a wider...
It's small town, southern...
Trump supporters.
Yeah, kind of your scum of the earth. So even...
you're saying Trump supporters are scum of the earth. I didn't say that.
Well, no, I'm saying that's what it's portrayed like. They're southern, they're small town, we shouldn't care about them. That's the way it comes across. The police department,
who don't police, but they are racist, homophobic, aggressive, violent police department. The man, the local, her husband is an abusive ex-partner.
Yeah. Sam Rockwell, his character, Jason Dixon, his mother is just as bad, but she...
Who does she put you in mind of?
I don't know.
What does their relationship put you in mind of?
I don't know.
She's basically stepped off the set of Psycho, hasn't she? Straight out of Bates Motel.
I thought you might say that. Yeah, the controlling mother. Yes, like she.
Racist, violent, all of that.
Yeah, so Dixon eventually he actually has to hand in his police badge because finally someone's had enough of him. Not following the rules, beating up people, putting them in hospital. And
how did he put him in hospital?
He threw this lad from a window of a building.
First floor window,
and then as he lay bleeding on the ground, proceeded to kick him some more right opposite the police station, and then walked past a man and says, what the hell are you looking at? And goes inside, and this man enters like 2 minutes later, and he's the new chief of police, and he's not that impressed.
Oh, so he tells
but it's his mum that's like, oh, do you want me to go down there and have a word for you? Like, she is supposed to be this vile, horrible woman. It's like she's taught him everything he knows.
And one of the few allies that what's her name? Mildred.
Yeah.
No? Is it Mildred? Right.
Yeah.
One of the few allies she has is the lady that works in
Denise,
who is the only female black character. And what happens to her?
She gets put in prison
because of...
I can't remember. Is it drugs related?
Yes,
drug charges.
Drug use.
Obviously, all concocted by Jason Dixon to make a point. He just wants to get to Mildred, so he does that by attacking her friend. And obviously, because she's also she's black, she's a woman. he can do what he wants.
So there are issues with, someone like, Martin McDonagh, London-born Irish director who sets his kind of it's his second American-based feature film after Fargo, and it's like we just wonder what the kind of takeaway is. I mean, look, I really enjoyed the film. I liked it. I liked kind of plugging for the underdog.
Yeah.
I wanted her to, and I do also like that there's no closure.
No, I do love that
in the film. Although
there
again,
can't be a happy ending.
Although again, I've got an issue.
With the ending.
I've got an issue with Dixon's redemption.
Yeah. Should I talk about his redemption?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or not. I mean, having said that, they are in the car driving off to do what?
Well, they're supposed to be going to kill a rapist.
Right. So I talk about redemption in the loosest possible terms, I guess.
Yeah. So. Well, after Mildred sets fire to the police station, actually, Jason Dixon was inside the whole time, and he didn't answer the phone because he had his headphones in. And once he realises that the whole place is ablaze, he can't get out without being burnt.
What's he doing in the police station? What's he actually doing?
Oh, am I going to go through that plot point as well?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm giving everything away.
Yeah, well, people have seen it. They're kind of...
Yeah, okay, to be fair. So... Earlier on, Chief Willoughby has taken his own life. He gives his wife and daughters one last magical day, and then he writes a suicide note.
Because he is dying.
He is dying, and he takes his own life in his stables on his land. And actually, people blame Mildred for that. They think
which is another ridiculous plot point, because everybody knew he was dying of cancer. And she's unfairly blamed, and he actually writes a note to her saying, I didn't kill myself because of you, and as a kind of last joke he says, do you know what, I've paid for the next month's rent on the Billboards, so they'll have to stay out for another month. I'll enjoy. He knew everybody would blame her.
Which is unfair, so then these billboards are eventually burnt, and she assumes it's someone at the police. I think she probably assumes it's Jason Dixon because he's made his dislike of her very clear. But as he's trying to run out of the police station, which is on fire thanks to her...
What's he listening to? You didn't say.
Oh, I don't know. It's just this.
No, he's reading the letter that...
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying what he was listening to. I was like, I don't know what music he was listening to on the headphones.
Well, we hear it. That's what we hear.
Yes. So while that's happening, we hear the narration of the note that Chief Willoughby left for him, basically telling him, you could be a really good police officer. You are a good guy.
It's all about love.
Yeah,
look for the love.
You've got a heart, that sort of thing, all soppy.
And had a profound effect on him. Because...
Well, yeah, so before he goes, he knows that Chief Willoughby wanted to do the best that he could for Mildred and her family. So he grabs the case file for Mildred's daughter, and he brings that out with him as he jumps through the flames. And he throws it across the tarmac, and she comes down from the building and sees him lying there. She stands there in shock. She doesn't rush to help him, but Peter Dinklage is in this film. You'll know him from Game of Thrones. He played Tyrion Lannister. He runs over and starts patting Jason down, putting the fire out, trying to tend to him. And so he kind of gets his comeuppance in that sense, and then ends up in hospital with the guy he threw out of the window, who also seems to not forgive him, but treats him better than a lot of people would.
Another commentary about the locals. You've got the dwarf.
Oh, yeah.
Who
he provides a nice little alibi for Mildred when they come to talk about the burned down police station.
He wants to, get into bed with her.
Yeah, so she promises that she will go to dinner with him as like a thank you. Which is a lovely, awkward scene in itself. So Jason Dixon, now suffering from, these horrendous burns, he actually...
It's almost like he's been purged. It's almost like he's been purged of his previous bad character.
Yeah.
Because now then we're expected to believe that this absolute idiot, numbskull, thick as two short planks, racist, homophobe, controlled by his controlling mother,
now has
the capacity to get hammered, and whilst hammered, not physically beat up somebody he now suspects of committing that crime.
No.
But has the foresight to
get DNA.
scrape his cheek.
Yes, he overhears a conversation that a man is having where they talk about raping a girl, and so he puts two and two together and thinks maybe this is the guy who committed the crime. And so he antagonises him so that the man punches him, they get into a fight, and he makes sure that he scratches, to antagonise him, he scratches his face. Then he goes home, shuts himself in the bathroom, he's bloody and beaten, his mum's outside the door crying and screaming, she wants to help him, and he's carefully taking the skin from under his fingernails and putting it in a vial so that it can be tested. Turns out it's not the guy, but he tells Mildred, I'm getting it checked, like I think this could be the guy. It turns out it's not. But they decide that since the police department aren't going to do anything since this guy was just passing through, I can't remember where he is. Was it Idaho? It was another state. And
well, they say that he might not be guilty of killing Mildred's daughter, but he's guilty of killing someone. But he's still a rapist. And in a phone conversation, Jason says that is it Jason that says he's going to drive, or Mildred? Well, no.
One of them says it. One of them says, I'm going to drive to Idaho, and the other one says, I'm going to join you.
No, so I think Dixon says, I've got his address, and says where it is, and then Mildred says, it's funny, I'm driving there tomorrow.
There you go, yeah. And so the ending is them discussing in the car, like, what are we actually going to do? They're not saying for definite that they are going to kill this man, but they seem quite content to enjoy this car journey either way and decide when they get there. So you don't know what happens. There is no happy ending for Mildred in the sense that there's no justice for her daughter as of yet. But that's real life. You don't always find the killers. And
I can handle that as an. Yeah. I like the fact there was no closure on that. I think that was nice. I had a bit of an issue with Thelma and Louise driving off into the sunset.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
Okay. I thought we covered a lot there. Anything else? What else do you want to? Anything else you've got to say about it? Any trivia?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, the role, when Martin McDonagh was writing the film, he thought of Frances McDormand in the role of Mildred. And at the time, she was a bit apprehensive about taking the role because at the time she was 58, and she thought in a small southern town like that, would a woman wait until she's in her late 30s to have children? And she thought it wasn't very realistic, and she asked if it could be, the grandmother of the girl who does it all, and McDonagh said no, it's got to stay like it is. In the end, in her words, her husband Joel Cohen of the Coen brothers just turned around to her and said, just shut up and do it. So that's why she's in the film, and she is brilliant.
Did she win an Oscar for it?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that actually. So she won an Oscar for Best Actress, and Sam Rockwell won for Best Supporting Actor. Harrelson was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor. They were both brilliant. The film was nominated for Best Picture and Best Original Score, and it lost out to The Shape of Water. Also, Best Original Screenplay lost to Get Out, and Best Film Editing, it lost to Dunkirk. 2017 was a pretty competitive year at the Oscars. We saw quite a few of those films that were nominated for Best Picture. We've both seen The Shape of Water, but yeah, I think my main award that I would have thought it should have won was Frances McDormand in that role. I think she did a really,
Sam
really
Rockwell
good job.
Plays a horrible.
Oh, he is brilliant.
Really
to
well.
Be fair, I do like both of them.
And there are some real dark moments. There are some. Oops, I really shouldn't be laughing at that, but that's quite funny.
Yeah.
Moments, pretty much like there are in Bruges as well, which is McDonagh's first. No, it's not American based, is it? I'm thinking of Fargo. But yeah, in Bruges, and McDonagh is dark as well, and you do laugh out loud at not the wrong time.
Yeah. And just the last thing, we talked about the fact that the billboards do get set alight. They're actually restored because a guy who works for the advertising company, he turns up at Mildred's door and says, I know the billboards got burnt down, but we get given copies of everything that we make. So he kind of brings them to her, and it's that moment of kindness, like he obviously believes there's something worth fighting for here and that they should be put back up, which is interesting because after Chief Willoughby dies and the billboards are burnt, you never hear about anyone else's kind of views on the billboards again. It's sort of, that part's over, and it mainly turns, I feel, to Sam Rockwell's character's redemption. I feel like it focuses on that.
Guys, you talk about that, that's the... I've written down that liberal intelligentsia versus redneck Trump supporters. That's the That's the basic
Accurate.
head to head in the film, and which I think might sit awkwardly with, quite a few people, but that's. So, anything else to say, or are you going to recommend it or not? Or
I mean, I would definitely recommend it. I would just say that I went on Twitter earlier and just typed the name of the film into the search and saw what people were saying about it. And obviously, this film came out three years ago now, and a lot of people are they find it too problematic to watch, and they think that the way it deals with issues in America, such as a police officer being racist and vile to civilians, they're like, oh, isn't that a bit problematic? But then that is exactly what America has shown itself to be like in some areas over the last few weeks. So I think it's still a brilliant watch regardless. It is difficult subject matter, but I'd still recommend it. I loved it the second time round.
Yeah, I mean, I as you've probably figured out,
You've got your issues.
I've got a slightly more kind of critical response to it, having considered it. I would still recommend it. I think it's still enjoyable. It's a good film, good performances. Are some great moments in it. Brilliantly acted. Go on, give us a...
Oh, it's so hard to give ratings on these films.
Well, do you know what?
Because every week I have to think about where I'd place it with regards to other films,
right,
I can't do it.
So you should be taking a note of what you've given previous films, so you're just ill-prepared is what you're saying.
No, it's so because I don't like rating them.
I'm going to get you to give a
No, I would probably put it at about, I'm going to say a 4.4 out of 5. Because I do agree that there are issues with it. Some of the storyline a little bit unrealistic, and certain things that happen. Yeah, we've talked about it. So I would say 4.4. Would still recommend it. It was nominated for Best Picture for a reason.
Yeah, it was box office successful and critically received as well, wasn't it? So, yeah. Right, okay, is that it? You're done?
Yeah, I'm done.
You're coming up for air after your deep dive in Ebbing.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, good stuff. Right. Okay, right, that's done. Your final 2 questions now. So question 5. Which film stars Brad Pitt as a man who ages in reverse? That's a nice easy one for you.
Yeah.
Which film stars Brad Pitt as a man who ages in reverse? And your final question... What is the name of Homer Simpson's beer of choice? What is the name of Homer Simpson's beer of choice? Right, there are your final questions. Hang around a few more minutes and you'll get your 6 answers. Okay, so what's coming up this week? DVD, Netflix, TV, whatever.
Etc. Right, I've got quite a list this week.
Oh, good.
I'm going to start with Netflix. Tomorrow... Season 3 of The Sinner is coming out.
Oh, is that Jessica Biel? Was that her? No.
It was the first series was Jessica Biel, right. Yes. So it's kind of standalone stories. You can watch the separate seasons.
Is that the kind of the weird cop? I can't remember his name. Who has this kind of nail fetish? He likes to be scraped and scratched.
Yeah, he visits like a dominatrix type woman.
What's his name?
His Bill Pullman is the actor. Yes. Ambrose is in the series.
Right,
yeah.
No, that's brilliant. That's coming out tomorrow.
It's coming out tomorrow, and I did not know until I looked today, so I'm very excited for that. Just to give you a bit of background, it's a police detective who, in the first season, he delves into the past of a troubled woman to determine why she stabbed a man to death.
In public,
full view of everyone.
On a beach.
She had a great life and she suddenly switched. And so he talks to her and explores her history to work out why she did it, what made her do it. And the second season, new story, he returns after a young boy confesses to poisoning a couple.
Nice.
And then he learns secrets that the inhabitants of the hometown are determined to keep buried. It's a lot of...
Is that a cult? Are they in a cult or something?
I think so, potentially. So he basically goes into these really difficult cases and dredges up everything from the past. So
it's brilliant. Watch it.
It is so good. We were hooked pretty much straight away. So that's really great to look out for. The other one I'm bringing up to Netflix, Slightly different, bit more feel good, bit more musical. If you like that sort of thing,
marvellous.
you're going to hate it, and you're going to hate it even more when I tell you the title. It's Eurovision, The Story of Fire Saga.
Oh, shoot me now.
It's also got Will Ferrell in, just to annoy you.
Shoot me twice. Make sure I'm dead.
It's a Netflix owned film.
Hang me as well.
Oh God, it's a Netflix owned. No
Drown
one
me.
is making you watch it.
Okay.
I won't force you to watch it. I might watch it, but we'll see. It's a Netflix owned film. It's got Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams in. And it's about two small town singers from Iceland who chase their pop star dreams at Eurovision.
Oh, I'm already involved in it. Wow.
You love it. I know. It's going to be your top hit of the year.
I'd rather peel my own skin off and dip the remains in a bucket of boiling salted water.
Lovely. Moving on then. So, TV, I had a look at what's coming up this weekend. And there's something on a film. It's a documentary film, and it's called I'm Not Your Negro. It's on BBC Two, 9 p.m. Saturday. So if you're in the UK, you can watch it there. But I'm sure it came out in 2016, I think. So I'm sure it's available online and on DVD, etc. I just thought it was relevant in this time because of the Black Lives Matter movement. So it's made by a documentary filmmaker who uses an unfinished manuscript by James Baldwin that held personal accounts of his close friends, including Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. The whole film is narrated by Samuel L. Jackson, and it explores the history of black living in America. So Hollywood stereotypes, police brutality. And I just thought it'd be really cool to throw a documentary in here, and I think it's something that I will watch to educate myself, and I just thought something a bit different as well to recommend to people. Finally, 2 DVDs that are coming out. One is coming out on Monday, so what date would that be? 20 something? What's the date today?
No
21st, I think. It's 21st.
It's Thursday.
Oh, then it's the 22nd. Okay, cool. So it's a film by Justin Kurzel. If you haven't heard of him before, he directed the 2015 Macbeth film. Don't hold that against him, but that is the most recent thing I could find. And it's a film called The True History of the Kelly Gang. It's actually got George McKay in, who was in 1917. I said at the time I'd never seen him in anything before. Well, it turns out he's in this, and it's a fictionalised account of the life of a bushranger and his gang fleeing from authorities in the 1800s. Thought that might be something a little bit different to watch. The last one is a film called The Invisible Man, based on the novel by H.G. Wells. Can't see it being a success, no. No, me neither. It's a sci-fi horror. But it's got Elizabeth Moss in, and if you know her, you might recognise her from Top of the Lake TV series, which we both absolutely loved. It's a woman who fears that she's being stalked by her abusive ex-boyfriend even after his apparent suicide, and so she deduces, oh my god, easy for me to say, that he must have acquired the ability to become invisible.
Right.
Interesting. I have seen the trailer for it going around, so I'm kind of intrigued by that one, but it's from... Oh,
ignore my phone.
Hello. It's from a director called Lee Whannell, who I've never heard of before, but apparently he wrote the screenplays for Saw and Insidious. So he's got a big horror background already. So that has promise, I think. Okay, I'm done. I can breathe.
Okay, I didn't hear anything after you mentioned The Sinner, so yeah.
You're excited. I told you would be. I said something's coming up. You're really going to like it.
Okay. Right, before my answers... Oh, no, we'll do the answers now.
Oh, no.
So, 6 questions. Jen, you ready?
Oh, no.
Number 1. Which film features the character Sir Robin, the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot?
Is it? I'm taking a guess here. It's something like Monty Python.
It is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail. That's it. I couldn't remember. But
And question 2. Who played the role of the deranged Norman Bates in the classic Hitchcock horror Psycho?
I can't remember his name.
Anthony Perkins.
Oh, so annoyed.
Question 3. Which British comedian took over as host of The Late Late Show from Craig Ferguson?
James Corden.
Is correct.
Okay.
Question 4. Who was the star of Channel 4's Trigger Happy TV? Dom Jolly.
Oh.
Dom Jolly.
Oh.
Question 5. Which film stars Brad Pitt as a man who ages in reverse?
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Is correct. And the final question. What is the name of Homer Simpson's beer of choice?
I can't remember what it is. It's like it is with F.
If what?
I thought it was like F.
F is a prominent sound in it, but it's not at the start.
Oh.
Duff beer.
Duff. Oh my god.
Used to play for Chelsea.
That means
And
nothing
the
to
Republic
me.
of Ireland.
That means nothing.
First name
to me.
Damien, surname Duff.
It's a bit of a duff name, if you ask me.
That's awful. I mean,
I'm not here to make jokes.
That is really bad.
I can edit it out. It's
Okay,
fine.
I'm not sure where to go from that, but let's try. Let's try one good, one bad. Off you go, Jen. One good.
Oh, okay. My good is from watching 3 Billboards. Like I said, we saw it when it came out in the cinemas. This is, 2.5, 3 years ago. There is a brilliant moment in there where Mildred is on her date with Peter Dinklage's character. Whose name I
The
can't-
dwarf.
The dwarf, yes. And Charlie, her ex-husband, and his new girlfriend come in.
The 19-year-old.
The 19-year-old.
He's about 50.
Yeah, and Charlie comes over to the table and he's just talking to Mildred, kind of making fun of her for being, on this date with this man, and he talks about Penelope saying to him,
He's apologising, isn't he? He's apologising for setting fire to the billboards. That's the reveal. That's when.
I thought that came after that.
No, that's when she finds out, and he's saying.
Oh,
and so
okay.
he's apologising because.
Yes, he is.
Because
right.
he realises that he was drunk and anger never serves well, and he go on.
Yeah, so apparently Penelope says to him, anger only begets greater anger. And the take that Mildred and her date have from this is Penelope said begets, because she plays this really ditzy character, and so it's impossible that she would say something like that. It turns out she got it off a bookmark. But the reason I like it so much is, number one, it's such a classic kind of comedy moment in the middle of this really serious conversation, but it threw me back to being in the cinema and how everyone in the audience laughed so much at that line because it was so unexpected. So that's my good. My bad is we're still working our way through the Matrix. Oh my goodness, I can't talk. The Matrix trilogy. We are now on the 3rd one. I still don't know what's going on, and the fact is they're making a 4th one, which has been pushed to 2022. I don't understand where this is going. I don't know why they've decided to make one 10 years later, more than that, nearly 20 years later. I just don't get it.
Okay.
Go on. What do you think? One good, one bad.
Well, one good. I haven't got a good. I've got a big gap where I've written one good. So
Nothing positive at all.
I'm going to say football's back. Yay!
All right, I'll take that as
And my
positive.
one bad is in relation to the football. Piped in crowd noise, fake crowd noise. No, thank you. Utterly awful. There's my one bad for the week. And one
Okay.
good's right. Anything else to say to our 10 listeners?
Just thank you for listening, and hope you're enjoying it as much as I am, because I am enjoying it.
And who made you listen? Did you lose a bet? No?
Oh,
Okay. Is that
I'm sure there are people that like it.
self-deprecating humour? It's
I
fine.
know.
It's allowed.
I'm trying to be positive here.
I'm miserable, but there you go. That's my default setting. Eeyore. I was called Uncle Victor when I was teaching at school. Uncle Victor. Victor Meldrew, 1 foot in the grave. Look it up.
There's a reference for you.
Yeah, look it up. Right, okay, we're done. I'm out. My Jack Daniels glass is empty, so I need that refilling.
Hope you find someone to do that for you.
I think I just have. Okay, see you
Bye.
folks. Bye.